a Nigerian non-profit organization established in 2016 with the mission to advance accountability, foster good governance, and enhance development in marginalized and undeserved communities by promoting active citizens. Accountability, necessary for good governance and development of Nigeria, becomes a norm. Their work at PLSI revolves around six strategic domains, including value for money, and that to revenue and expenditure, research, policy and advocacy, citizens' participation, engagement and involvement, climate change, adaptation and energy accountability, institutional support, and capacity strengthening, as well as gender equality accountability. PLSI uses a combination of research, policy advisory, advocacy, civic tech, public sensitizations, and multi stakeholder dialogue and collaboration to achieve social change. Welcome to the fourth week of the show. Last week, we took a look at the topic audit issues in Ministry of Health, Ministry of Youth and Sports, and Ministry of Agriculture. Today on the show, we will be taking a look at the topic audit issues in Ministry of Land and Survey, Bureau of Interfaith and Poverty Alleviation. My name is Jeffrey Ngbede Adiku, your host. My guest on the show today via Zoom is Mr. Abdullahi Adebayo, and that's the Program Officer, Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative. Still waiting for him to connect via Zoom call. And seated with me in the studios here this morning is Mr. Yusuf Goje, the head of Governance and Advocacy Coalition of Associations for Leadership, Peace, Empowerment, and Development. Good morning, Mr. Yusuf, and thank you for being here.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
All right, before we join our guests via Zoom, let's just dive straight to taking a recap of the last episode of Value for Money radio program.
All right. Good morning, our listeners. It's another beautiful Thursday where we get to engage and discuss the audit reports of Kaduna State towards holding the government accountable. And just like you said, the recap of what we discussed last year, we looked at three government ministries. We had the Ministry of Health, that had one audit issue, and it's around 11.6 million naira that was unaccounted for. Ministry of Youth and Sports had one audit issue, and 122.4 million naira was said to be unaccounted for in the 2020 and 2021 audit reports. And lastly, we looked at Ministry of Agriculture, where about 471 million naira was also said to be unaccounted for. And like we highlighted last week, what this means does not necessarily mean that the money has been stolen. It could just be that there are no evidence provided as to how those monies were utilized, or due process was not carried out to that end. So that's basically the key points of discussion. We also looked at how that impacts public financial management system in Kaduna State, and also the impact on development generally. And we got callers that were also able to share their thoughts around this document. And I believe that one of the key goals of this program is really to get the residents of Kaduna interested in this issue, so that we can build that critical mass to hold the government accountable in the state in particular. So basically, those were some of the discussion points for last week.
All right, you've heard, and just joining Mr. Abdullahi Adebayo via Zoom, and that's the Program Officer, Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative. We want to apologize for some glitches and hitches right here in the studios, but finally we've connected with you. Good morning, welcome to the program. Mr. Adebayo, can you hear us? Okay, I think we're having some audio issues with Mr. Adebayo. Okay, can you join via audio? All right, Mr. Adebayo, can you hear us? Good morning. Okay, seems to be having some technical faults, network glitches and all of that. But before we join Mr. Adebayo, let me just quickly jump at Mr. Yusuf Goji in the studios here. Just like as the slogan for broadcasting goes, the show must definitely go on. All right, so Mr. Yusuf Goji, you've actually given a recap of the last episode of the Value for Money radio program, and let's just jump straight to let's talk about the impact risk of the audit issues. Okay, what impact risk do you think these audit issues will have on public finance management and the accountability ecosystem in Kaduna State?
Thank you very much for that question. One of the major responsibility of government is the security and welfare of the people. And for government to be able to fulfill that responsibility, it needs finances to do that. And beyond just generating these finances must be managed in such a way that the end objective of government, which is the security and welfare of the people, is delivered through service delivery across the various sectors. So in a situation where the rate at which we are generating revenue is not as fast as the rate our population is growing, the rate at which poverty is growing, the rate at which unemployment is growing, the rate at which hunger is growing, that means that the little resources must be strategically allocated to areas that can really, in a way, mitigate the negative impact of all of these issues I have highlighted that is growing faster than the rate that we are generating resources. So it means practically that there must be systems put in place, because we established this last year that financial discipline is as difficult to an individual, same to as government. So for you to ensure that there's financial discipline, then there must be fiscal responsibility and fiscal discipline in government. And that practically means that there must be laws, there must be regulations, and there must be processes put in place that for every kobo that government would spend, it must pass through these 3 to 4 areas I've highlighted in terms of compliance. This would ensure that even if somebody wants to mismanage the funds, there are systems and there are processes guiding it. And the audit process is part of that systems put in place to ensure that whoever manages public funds is always held accounted for how he utilized those funds. And it is expected that when there are queries, when there are issues raised, that accounting officer must justify what he did with the money. If he justifies it by providing the needed evidence, then that will now give him a pass mark, which should actually earn him commendation and promotion. But in situation where those processes were not adhered to and it led to monies being mismanaged, waste, or stolen away, then that means that accounting officer would need to be sanctioned, so that he either don't repeat it or he's even replaced with somebody more competent enough or more credible enough to do. So these are the checks and balances, so that at the end of the day, the essence of government, because as long as government is not securing and providing the welfare of the citizens, then it means that it is gradually losing its essence. because the constitution is very clear on the primary purpose of government. And it goes further down. If you check section 16, you see how it broke down how government should manage the economy, ensure that everybody benefits in an inclusive way. So all of these things we are talking about, its core is at how government manage and utilize funds. And the audit reports are supposed to identify those issues that breach the key financial laws, financial regulations, and processes, standards set in place, and raise the alarm and punish, so that we know that these little resources that we are complaining on a consistent basis that is not enough, then we must manage it in such a way that it would be efficient and effective in achieving the purpose or the objectives for deploying the funds in the first place.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, can you hear us now? I'm hearing some background noise. I want to believe that you can, we can connect with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now. I think I have some technical issues earlier.
Okay.
So I've been able to solve that.
It's okay. All right. So quickly, let's discuss the audit findings in Kaduna State Ministry of Lands and Survey, as highlighted in the 2020 and 2021 audit report of the Kaduna State government. Mr. Adebayo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here with you. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Just to quickly contextualize. Okay, just to quickly contextualize that, and to say that I had the part of Mr. Yusuf when he was talking about key responsibilities that the auditors have to do, and which is very important to say that one of the efficiency and the reason why we need to work hand in hand with the Office of the Director General to ensure that we get proper accountability, and also to look at that of the Ministry of Land and Survey, where we have one audit issue, which was actually one of the let me say one key issue in the ministry, and of course which looks around outstanding payment voucher, and certainly where we have about 3.97 million not accounted for. So what that means is that expenditure was actually made, and of course payment was made, payment voucher was raised, and funds were disbursed also to the beneficiary. But unfortunately, during the time of the audit, when the auditors actually came to do the necessary things to actually verify the payment, it's also unfortunate that the auditor the payment vouchers were not actually made readily available, so that the auditors could actually see the purpose of what the money is meant for. For instance, there might be claims to say that, this money is probably meant to maybe to for some procurement, and that of course the payment voucher will then dedicate to know which account does it actually go to. If the payment is actually made for one or two procurement, it then means who is the contractor, who is in charge, who actually implements such a project. But in this situation, the officers in charge did not provide, the payment vouchers that was actually to back up such expenditure, which means they've deprived Section 126 of the Constitution that empowers the Office of the Director General of the state to have access to all books, records, and details of accounts of all the agencies and courts of the state government. So it's to say that in as much they could not provide this document as at the time the auditors came on board to actually verify, to look into what exactly is the issue and what they need to to do. It then means the auditors could not certify that this payment was actually made to the purpose of which it was meant for, and of course did not actually get they did not get a value, or probably let me say there is no value added to that expenditure. So that's why the auditor flagged that payment of about 4 million naira or thereabout, 3.97 million in that Ministry of Lands and Survey. Thank you.
All right, just quickly to add, in PLSI's review of the 2020 and 2021 audit report of Kaduna State, it observed that the Kaduna State Bureau of Interfaith has 2 audit issues with 9.9 million naira that was not accounted for. Can you explain this further to the listener?
Right. Just to say that that's of the Bureau of Interface have similar an issue a bit similar to that of that of the Ministry of Land, the Bureau of Interfaith, but their own case is something, it's a very, very punishable offense in the law, because what actually happened there was actually misclassification of funds. So they have two payment voucher who was raised and certainly was paid out. But of course, they paid is one thing we call extra budgetary spending, and certainly which is, which then it is a very, very big offense when it comes. It means that you go against the law of the state. The budget, after the budget, of course, when the executive prepare the budget and they send to the legislative arm for them to, the governor then present the budget to the State House Assembly for ratification, and of course for them to pass into law. And certainly, when then it is an appropriation bill, and of course when the State Assembly then pass the budget appropriation bill into law, and the governor sign it then become an appropriation act. So which guides the finances of the state for such financial year. But unfortunately, what transpired or what happened in this Bureau of Interface in that year 2020, 2021 was that, the sum of that 9.9 million was actually paid out and was spent out. Two different payment vouchers were raised and, of course, was expended. But fortunately, what they expended the money for is not actually in the approved budget for that financial year, which means they actually go against it, and it's a punishable offense under the law, which it then means that when the auditor actually see, the budget line of what do you spend this money for, and that is one of the things that the payment voucher does when they prepare and submit payment vouchers to the auditor. It gives them access to see, to understand what exactly is this money meant for. Was it actually in line with what was approved for that agency or for that ministry or for that department? Of course, in the situation of this Bureau of Interfaith, so they expended this money, and of course it wasn't in line with their budget line that was approved as at that period of year, and of course they spent without even getting an approval, from the, which even if you want to get a supplementary budget, we could see even at the federal level when the president actually requested to see he still have more, he needs more resources or more funding to be spent in the year 2023. Even though we are at the 11th hour, he went to the assembly, prepared and submitted a supplementary budget, and of course which was approved and it was signed to law before they can expend the money. But in the situation of this Bureau of Interfaith, they just spend the money without even passing through the due process of submitting the engaging with the executive to prepare and submit a supplementary budget to then being approved by the State of Assembly, and of course being signed into law by the governor before they can answer, okay, yes, we want to spend this money. They just believe, so we have the money in our purse, then we can actually spend it the way we like. In as much it's just to say that there are a lot of things attached to that. It might be the reason to ask them, why can't they wait till the next financial year before they can actually implement that? Or if they think it's actually important, why did they omit it in the first instance? So there are different things that are actually surrounding that. There are different questions that surrounded this audit issue. But it's just to contextualize to say that they spent and misclassified money that was not actually in line with their budgetary provision for that financial year.
All right, let me just quickly give a follow-up question to Mr. Yusuf Koje. Why do you think we always have issues of audits, the funds not being accounted for in most of these ministries, and whose place is it to enforce accountability for clarity's sake to the public?
Well, most of these audit issues are consistent in most of the MDAs because our accountability system is weak. So when I know that I don't have to explain myself or bring proof that I actually executed or did certain payments, then it gives me an incentive to continue to use money as I want, because probably I am confident that nobody will ask me questions. And that is why you find a lot of these loopholes. And the system already has laws. That's why we have the audit law. we have the public finance law, we have fiscal responsibility laws, procurement laws. All of these laws are in existence. But because these laws are not activated, those sections of the law that seeks to enforce or mandate those accounting officers or people carrying out public service to account for how they utilize this money, then it will continue to expand and bring out these issues. But thankfully, with reforms that continue to open up the governance systems, we are seeing increasing transparency, and that is why, for example, we are here discussing audit reports of Kaduna State. Previously, you can't even see the budget, not to talk of the audited report, but all of these things are now publicly available. And that's why the searchlight is becoming brighter and brighter on really how do people in government manage public resources. And at the end of the day, the more citizens, and like I will want to reiterate, the essence of this program, I strongly believe, is to ensure that Kaduna citizens pick interest in asking these questions based on the conversations we are having in the studio around audit issues, that is exposing how monies are being utilized. Are they utilized in a transparent way, in an accountable way, that anybody can come and ask, how did you spend 1 naira, and evidence is being provided. As to who is responsible, you have what is called horizontal accountability. And at the level of horizontal accountability, which means one government institution has been given power by law to check how other government institutions are managing their resources. The Office of the Auditor General, that is why the law created the office, so that they can check how government agencies, departments, and ministries are utilizing public funds. Are they complying with the necessary laws? Are they complying with the necessary regulations? Are there processes that should have been followed in providing evidence of how these monies were utilized? So that is basically what the Office of the Auditor General was created to do by law. Then also the State House of Assembly, which has power of oversight, apart from other responsibility, has also been empowered by the law through the Public Accounts Committee to ensure that they hold the executive arm accountable as to how funds. So when the Office of the General finishes its reports, it forwards it to the Assembly, it is given to the Public Accounts Committee, which is usually, the chairmanship is usually reserved for the opposition party, to ensure that there's some level of independence in asking these questions and all of that. So these two institutions by law have been created to support that process. We also have the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, which also has some powers by law to really demand for accountability within the system. We have the procurement process that has some powers to really ask questions about how contracts are being carried out. I read in a book in 2010, like I always say, a magazine, where it has said that in Nigeria, about 70% of public funds are stolen through contracts. So it means that our searchlight must be on the contracting process. Then the key last set of category of people that have been empowered to ensure accountability through the audit process are the citizens themselves. So that's where you have vertical accountability and horizontal. But I will not go into that because.
All right, let me just cut you there. Talking about the citizens themselves, is there an avenue that is created for the demand of accountability by these citizens? And if yes, how easy is it for them to get to these necessary channels? And even if they get that channels, what the possibility that they will be listened to?
Yes, so in terms of the various channels, so for Kaduna specific, and I believe that Abdullahi Adebayo has said there will be a day that will discuss the accountability landscape in Kaduna. But I just want to highlight and say that in Kaduna State, in the critical sectors, we have what is called accountability mechanisms set up, which is usually a platform that brings government and civil society in those sectors to discuss issues of accountability within sectors. So for example, there is one that is coming up that is going to work closely with the legislative arm to ensure that committees like the Public Accounts Committee really is effective through partnering with civil society groups and other drivers of development in the state. So that is one channel that can be looked at. Then two, we have engaged directly with the Office of the Auditor General. And I think in the public service in Kaduna, that's one man at any point you knock his door as a citizen, as civil society or media, he always welcomes you in. And we have worked closely, done a lot of programs to see how a partnership can be done. So if you can't go through these accountability mechanisms, you can go directly and engage the Office of the Auditor General. Then in the law, particularly in the local government, there is supposed to be the Audit Alarm Committee. That committee is, I think in the law, section 39 or so, empowers citizens to raise concerns during payments that they believe is fraudulent and what have. So the law provides for citizens to directly engage that audit committee with their evidence, so that the Audit Alarm Committee can take it up and raise the flag on time. So that is another entry point and another committee that residents of Kaduna can take advantage of. And I believe the media, by virtue of section 22 of the Constitution, has already empowered the media to ensure that the government is responsible and accountable to the citizens. So you can always direct their issues to the media. Media can either even invite civil society to come and discuss on the issue that any citizen has raised based on evidence and all of that.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, your organization's review of the 2021 report of the Auditor General of Kaduna State shows that the Poverty Alleviation Agency has won audit issues with 43 million naira that was not accounted for. Can you discuss that more?
Well, all right, thank you so much. And just to say that before I move to that poverty alleviation, I want to say to buttress one thing, the last statement of Mr. Yusuf, where he talked about the audit alarm. And I think one of the things we've been pushing for and we've encouraged the Supreme Audit institutions, both at the federal and at the state level, is to start looking into employing the citizens participatory audits. It's actually another form of auditing where you involve a civic group or citizens into the audit team itself. What that simply means is the fact that you train citizens on how you do your work in the audit system, and of course you then engage them into the system right from point A to point Z, and at the same time so that it will then give them an opportunity to understand the scope of the audit work itself. And also, let's say in the situation, because one of the challenges we've identified is the fact of funding to the Office of the Auditor General, and of course the CPA seems to bridge that funding gap, because let's assume citizens who are actually spread across in different rural communities, and certainly they've been trained on how the audit process actually works. So it then empowers the auditors, then put trust in them to say, probably there are some capital projects in some rural communities that probably we don't have resources to visit there or to go and check what exactly is going on there. Of course, certainly those citizens that they've actually invited into their team can actually help them to conduct such investigation, to reach out, to look at, visit those communities. And one of the things we say, civil society or civic group or media, they have a huge network across all the local governments in the state. So it's one of the things that we're pushing to see how the Office of the Auditor General can start, looking into that CPA, Citizens Participatory Audits, and engaging it further in the nearest future. We are hopeful that with time they will definitely, it's one of the reform we're looking into to see how to put that into place for the state. And now to go to that of the Poverty Alleviation Agency, like you said, yes. Apologies, please. I'm a little bit under the weather, so that's it. So, like to say, one on this issue with 43 million naira not accounted for. So, one thing that actually transpired in that agency is the fact that when the auditors actually look at it, they see that it was actually an unrecovered loan from trade or union or market union people. So, a sum of 43 million was actually pushed out as loan to help, what's the name? The trade and market union people perhaps more of like a loan to help them boost their economic development. But unfortunately, about for 3 million naira has not been recovered back from the purse of from these people back to the purse of the government. There are many things that this thing actually which it implies. One, it then means that if these people did not recover this fund as at that period of time, which means that they would deprive probably subsequent people who should have or avenue, who should have the opportunity to actually benefit from this kind of loan scheme in the future. They would definitely deprive them that opportunity of the government expanding such projects to different to different set of people. And at the same time, it's also to ask another question of who are these people that they give out this loan to? That is another question. Who are the people that the loan was given out to? So that they then answer the question of, are they really the market women? Are they not really to bridge that gap? Because those are the things I believe citizens will be interested in. The questions they will start asking, who are these people? Are they really people that they are people of the state, or are they not people of the state? These all sort of questions like that are things that I believe that would emanate from this issue. But it's to say that yes, it has been established that for 3 million has not been recovered from these people. But of course, government they have necessary information, they have the necessary tools, and they have the tools, they have the equipment, they have everything, human resources and everything to demand and to recover back this fund. Let's look at the anchored borrower scheme at the federal level. As beautiful as how that scheme is, apparently it will have actually helped to empower series of set of farmers across board. Why some they obtain the loan, they return it back, then they now move to another batch and pass some other set of farmers. That is what I expect such scheme to look like. It's that to say that here we can call on two different set of people. Why we are calling on citizens to do the needful, to be an active citizens, to do the rightful thing they should do, returning back this resource. And at the same time, we also look at the government's perspective to say that they have the equipment, they have the database of all these people, all the beneficiaries of this loan, and of course they should reach out to them and get recover this huge amount of money back to the purse of the government, so they can definitely then leverage it to implement further projects in the states. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just like as the saying goes, he who is not informed is deformed. So, Yusuf Goje, what do you think citizens can do with all these informations given so far for the demand of accountability?
Is to engage, continue to ask the right questions and to hold government accountable based on what government has committed to do. And one major thing that Mr. Adebayo had raised in his submission is even around the Bureau of Interfaith expending public funds that was not budgeted for, and that is depending on what component of the budget was utilized, because there are some spaces that allows for what is called virement, where government can move monies within a budget line. But I don't want to go all of that so that we don't confuse our listeners with the budget jargons. But the critical thing is that the budget is a law, and as long as the budget is a law, nobody can tamper with what is in what has been budgeted for, unless a supplementary budget is done. So if the governor spends 1 naira outside what has been budgeted for, it is an impeachable offense. So you know what that means when a government MDA or agency is expending money that was never budgeted for. So those are areas that citizens need to focus their attention on and ask these critical questions. What happened to those funds? Why were those funds utilized without the right appropriation and approval? And as long as we continue to ignore this kind of questions and we don't ask government MDAs, then public funds will continue to be used for other purposes aside which they were budgeted for. So basically, it's for citizens to understand that public funds is your money, just the way you value your private money, because there are people that you touch their 10 naira, Kaduna will shake. So why is it that nobody is showing concern when billions of naira, millions of naira are not accounted for, and everybody is going about his business as usual, as if it does not concern us? The same issues we gather in front of the Meshai shop to discuss. The same issues we gather in front of the newspaper vendors to argue and fight ourselves are the same issues that if we focus on engaging with audit reports like this and asking government, how are you utilizing these funds, then government would know that the citizens understand that the Constitution has empowered them to participate in how their resources have been managed. Therefore, those in government do not have any excuse not to do the right thing. And when those in government do the right thing, it means that those critical services that would bring about sustainable development in Kaduna can be provided. But if government officials don't utilize those funds for what they are supposed to do, then we'll continue to live in a society that has built a culture around corruption, that has built a culture around underdevelopment, and all the citizens do is to criticize, condemn, and insult those in government. And that has never changed anything until citizens begin to pick up this information. Because transparency and accountability is only effective if citizens utilize them. So that government is open, government has put out data out there, means government is transparent. But if citizens don't pick up those data, to look at those data, review it, and identify gaps, and pick those identified gaps, go and engage those in government directly, and ask the question, why is this gap there? And it is expected that in the spirit of accountability, government responds and explain that this is the reason why this gap exists, and these are the documents to back what we have just discussed. If those are not provided, then citizens can demand that those responsible should be sanctioned for not following due process and for not accounting for public funds. So it is very important, whether transparency, whether accountability, they are only as effective as the quality of citizens' participation and engagement using those data that the audit reports have been put out there. And don't forget, these issues we are discussing is for 2020 and 2021. For example, poverty alleviation is no longer there in Kaduna State. Lands and Survey is no longer there. It has been replaced by CAGIS. So these are agencies that have already closed shop. So it means that if citizens don't use this information to engage timely, the agency one day that has been managed those monies or have not accounted for them might be shut down. The people there might have retired. And government does not have resources to start pursuing them and all of that. So it means that if we are going to do accountability, it must be timely. And citizens must take ownership, because the Office of the Auditor General cannot do it alone. The Public Accounts Committee cannot do it alone, because they cannot be everywhere. They don't have the human power. They don't have the technical power, manpower to actually be everywhere and deliver on this. So citizens must understand that because public funds is our money, then we must put our eyes on how those monies are utilized. Thank you.
All right, so the program is the Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative, and which is a non-Nigerian profit organizations, and we actually taking a look at audit issues in Ministry of Lands and Survey, Bureau of Interfaith and Poverty Alleviation. And my guests on the show via Zoom call, Mr. Abdullahi Adebayo, the Program Officer, Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative, and Mr. Yusuf Goje in the studios here, Head of Governance and Advocacy Coalitions of Associations for Leadership, Peace, Empowerment, and Development. It's now time for me to engage the callers on the show. There might be any observation, questions, contributions you might want to add. make your contributions on the show. The number to call 081 40,000 989 081 40,000 989 or 07087 989 07087 989 081 40,000 989. We are streaming live on Facebook in Victor FM 98.9, in Victor FM 98.9. You can drop your comment there. Now, before the call starts coming in, let me quickly ask Mr. Adebayo these questions. Any recommendations to the concerned government institutions and citizens on this audit information?
Well, all right, thank you so much. Just to say that, of course, certainly there will always be recommendation, and one of the most important things is now to implement such recommendations. But I would say that my recommendations will be in two phases: one to the citizens and one to the government officials, as to the state actors and also the non-state actors. So to the citizens, I've always said that we are the primary beneficiary when it comes to public finances or public resources, because without the citizens, there won't be any government to go to say so. So I used to say that the governments are governing the citizens because the citizens exist. So they are the primary citizens, and that is why they need to take ownership of all the public resources and start seeing it as their properties, as their resources, not as one person's resources, and now start engaging in the process and ask the rightful question. Sometimes you can ask questions, but you're not asking the right question. So of course, leveraging this information, leveraging this data, then they would be able to ask the rightful question and start demanding proper accountability from their public officials. Another thing is to say that, I believe each communities or each state, local governments in Kaduna State belongs to one or two state constituency where they have representative representing them at the level of the state assembly, and these people are actually colleagues to the public account committee members, who they can actually citizens can start engaging their representatives to start asking them questions around what are your colleagues doing on all these issues, how are they working to recover these funds back to the purse of the government, and of course, and also to see that how is the government implementing the resolution of the public account committee of the state assembly as a whole on all these issues. So those are questions I believe citizens can start asking. And at the same time, recommendation to the government institution is to say that public account committee should always release this timely reports of what the reports of their review of audit report of audit issues. And of course, the resolution, the resolution of the State Assembly should actually be available to the public so that citizens can know what the Assembly has done on all audit issues. And of course, then they can now start, citizens can now know how to follow up and start looking at who is responsible, who is not implementing the resolution, and of course to say that the auditors are doing their part to ensure timely releases of reports, and of course it's also to say that the PAC should do their own part to ensure releases of time resolution to the public space so that citizens can understand what has happened in that other phase too, and also the executive to also work to see how to start implementing this resolution and also see how to manage efficiently the resources of Kaduna State. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's quickly take some calls. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Your name and where you calling from?
My name is Elder Dare Adebanjo.
Okay, Elder, let's hear you.
So, from what I've been able to deduce from this conversation, it means that government has made available avenues that we can actually monitor what they are doing and actually ask some questions instead of just being sentiment about issues. It means that they've made provisions for the facts, and you can cross-check the facts with what you have on ground and make engagement instead of being confrontational. I think it's a laudable one. So I employ all citizens to make good use of this opportunity and engage properly. based on the facts that are made available. Thank you. Good morning.
All right, thank you very much, Elder Diary, for that, your contributions and observation. And we still take more of your calls. Good morning, your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, Adolfo, good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to you guys. You have spoken very well. This is Engineer Manuel.
All right,
Now,
let's hear you.
how can one lay hand on all these things being available to the masses? Now, if you are saying that it's like now holding the government accountable. Now, let's start from where we are now today in Kaduna. There was a time the former administration, all government property, not say government property, were sold. Now, who did they give accountability? Where is that profit of all those things felt? Now, how can we lay hand on it? Then let's know where and where this money went into. Because if you say this thing is paid available, or there will be a time they will hold a town hall meeting to give people breakdown. Where and where did they make this announcement so that people will go and listen? Or is it a selective people that they will bring into a hall and tell them this and that, and the rest public they can go to whatever they want to go to? That is number one. Then number two, now let's talk about in the federation as a whole. Now we are told that subsidy were been removed. Now the proceed, the sale of subsidy, has it been made known to the people? Because I could remember vividly the first instance, the president told us 4 billion, 400 billion was paid. Then the second time he told us a trillion was paid. Till then till date, we've not had anything. So how did we get lay on this thing? And then now look at the person represent that was on the subsidy removal among the committee, who say that they are going to hold the president accountable. They will ask him questions. Later he debunked it that it was quoted out of context. So how can we get people that will say, okay, tell us where are our proceeds of money saved that belongs to the country at large, not some few individuals? But if you keep telling us those things, which we appreciate, let's get some facts and figure out how do we go to it. If it's on the internet, where is the fight? How do we click and get all the information we need? And if it is from there, we are going to ask questions and we will have a guarantee that we are going to be giving response on it. Then good and fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Yusuf, will you want to react to any of what's been said?
So quickly, I think El Dadari has practically explained what we have taken 1 hour discussing in this video program. So we really want to thank him, and we pray that he also mobilizes more people to think like him and act in the same manner. Well, for the last caller, I would just want to give the official government website. If it's allowed, I can just is www. If he has his biro, is www.kdsg.gov.ng. www.kdsg.gov.ng. Then we have that of the Planning and Budget Commission, which is the pbc.kadgov.ng. pbc.kadgov.ng. If you go there, you see budgets of Kaduna State, laws, Auditor General's report for 2022-2021. All of those documents are there, and I totally agree with him that we have issues that need to really come out in the audit reports, and these are feedbacks that even as civil society will give back to the office of the Auditor General to say citizens are asking what happened to the funds that the government sold houses, but it was captured in the budget. If you go to the budget, government has captured those sales of government houses. They've captured how much they intend to generate from it. So you can download the budget and check sales of government assets. I think you'll see them there. Then even in the Auditor General, there are instances where cars, government cars that have been boarded, that have been sold. The Auditor General's report, if you look at it, is saying that monies have also not been accounted for. So I urge them to really look out for this information, understand this information, and engage. When you engage, those in government will probably push back. They will not give you what you want immediately. So it needs consistency, it needs persistence to ensure that you put those in government on enough pressure to begin to account for how they use our monies.
All right, so quickly, Mr. Yusuf Goje, before we go, in 1 minute or less, yes, Mr. Adebayo is there. I will ask Mr. Adebayo before, of course, Yusuf, do you want to add anything to what's been asked by the callers?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm with you.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. Let me just say that I believe Mr. Yusuf has actually, done a whole lot of justice to the question. But just to add to the question of, I think I had that part of the last caller. I did not get that of the first one. When he was talking about how do you hold people responsible, how do you hold government responsible when they are actually not giving that listening ear. When he was talking about representative, those in charge of the full subsidy, and also, there's one thing I always tell people, and that's when I say, until citizens starts to, leveraging the power of being a citizen, when they start recognizing the fact that they has the power to decide who and who, how they want their government to look like, I believe then we can then start having, a redirection when it comes to governance. It's one thing that is very important is that, we voted for these people, we have the power. There are different ways we can always engage with them, even via town hall meeting or all sorts. To engage, but the most important thing is when you have adequate information, when you have the necessary data, when you are not actually quoting like you are gambling or you're saying, oh, I assume this. No, you're not inferring from when you're quoting the right data, the information, even from their own data, of course, certainly they will take you serious and say, yes, this person actually know that, oh, these are the reliable information that this person is quoting to demand accountability. I just believe that our citizens just have to be more proactive and, of course, start seeing issue of governance as their personal businesses also. Then I believe we will have a significant change we dream to have in the country.
To add quickly, how can our listeners reach you to learn more about your work?
All right, thank you so much. Just like I said, and I've been saying it over time, they can always reach out to us on our Value for Money on www.plsinitiative.org. That's our website. And of course, they can always reach out to us on any of our social media and do at PLS Initiative, both on Twitter, which is now X, and both on Facebook and also on Instagram. And at the same time, also, we have a dedicated platform called Value for Money, www.valueformoney.ng. This is a platform where we is actually dedicated to the hosted data, information around audited projects of government, both at the national and at the sub-national level, where when you visit, you can see projects that relate to your communities, that relate to different, or either at the federal level or at the state level. And of course, you can start, using the information to demand accountability and ask the rightful question. And lastly, just to wrap it up from my own end, is to say that also come November 13, Abuja will be hosting one of the biggest accountability conferences in the world, in the country, where we're bringing together different policy actors, expertise in different fields to come and talk around the accountability landscape, both at the national and sub-national level, and of course at the end of the so that we can all amplify to see how the work everybody's doing in silo and put everything together to strengthen accountability ecosystem in Nigeria. The main objective is to improve service delivery to citizens. So by November 30 in Abuja, of course, when you visit our website at www.plsinitiative.org, they will see details of the accountability summit. People can register to join virtually. You can also, if you're in Abuja, you can also join in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullahi Adebayo, for being part of the program. All right, and to Mr. Yusuf Goje, any specific message to the listeners? Just a minute.
All right. The Nigerian 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly Section 14(2)(c), says the participation by the people in their government shall be guaranteed or ensured by the provisions of the Constitution. So practically what that means is that the Constitution has backed citizens to participate in how government runs government. So it is only important that as citizens we activate that right that the Constitution has given to us and understand that until we work, Nigeria would not work. And so everybody must play his own part in fulfilling what democracy is, which is first, government of the people. It means the people should elect their leaders. Two, by the people, it means citizens should participate in how governance happens. And three, citizens should participate in ensuring that government services meet their needs. So, and that is what democracy is all about. So let's engage, let's continue to ask the right questions, and let's hold the government accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yusuf Goje, for being part of the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, my name is Jeffrey Mbede Odiku, and this is But the Size of the Program. It is your right to know and to demand accountability. Where to demand it from? Always be part of this program. The program will make a return, same time, same station, next week.
Oh my God, oh, oh, oh. It be like said they won't tell us what to we never hear before. To Baba Deya, plus Soli Baba Deya, Sabagaba.
Invicta FM.
We are the station that all the stations listen to. Invicta 98.9 FM.
Play it cool.
That's the old school way, man.